Welcome to Living Tattle Down with Betsy. That's me. This week, I have the most amazing special guest ever, and I total fangirl every time I talk with her. I am very excited to introduce all of you to the wonderful Kaaren Williamsen. And Kaaren, I am going to let you introduce yourself and give a little bit about who you are. But just as a quick note, we're going to talk about some restorative practices with Kaaren today. So go ahead, tell us about you.
Thanks so much, Betsy. So wonderful to be with you today. I am a newly independent consultant. I just left a job at University of Michigan where I was for 8 years, focusing on sexual misconduct prevention, restorative practices, and now I get to do that full time with people across the country. So I'm focusing really on restorative practices as it pertains to higher education, sexual misconduct, and helping teams figure out how to implement that if they want to bring that to their community.
Oh, okay. Restorative practices is something that has always overwhelmed me, but you've helped me
Yeah.
to kind of understand better and utilize it in kind of small doses,
Yeah.
depending on what situation I'm working in. So I would love for you to kind of give us a general overview of what that means when we're talking
Yeah.
about it. I know some people would say restorative justices. I
Yeah.
love the term restorative practices,
Yeah.
or restorative justice versus restorative practice. Let me get that right.
Yeah.
And can you give us an explanation of what it is that we're talking about when we're saying those words? Because I think they're
Yeah.
thrown around all the time and people are like,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
And sometimes restorative justice and restorative practices are used interchangeably. So that makes total sense. Um, I like to think about it as an approach to harm or wrongdoing or conflict that focuses on the harm to people and relationships rather than policy and law. So it's about what do you do when somebody's harmed? How do you respond to attend to the harm to those relationships and to the people involved? How do we make sure that harm doesn't happen again? So, how do we prevent that? And what are some repair strategies that we can use to address that harm? So, it's really, and one of my favorite RJ practitioners and writers, Howard Zehr, says it's really about harm to people and relationships. So even if we have a process that deals with policy violation or law, we still might have harm to people and relationships that we can attend to. And that's really what I saw on campus in my work, in my many years of working sexual misconduct on campus, is that even when we responded in a way where there was a finding, there was still harm unaddressed. And many of the parties were left unsatisfied. And many of my colleagues who were implementing these processes were left unsatisfied. And I really tried to figure out, like, is there another way that we can do this? And that's how I kind of got interested in restorative justice, is really its ability to attend to the harm to people and relationships. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Tell me this for those listening who are like, where does that fit in my process or the
Yep.
processes that we're using in our district or institution? And we'll focus higher ed, but I know that
Yep.
some K-12 districts are working
Yeah,
to implement
absolutely.
RJ practices as well. Like, where does that fit? Is it
Yep.
always an alternative? Is it sometimes coupled with a
Yep.
finding or potential finding of responsibility? What does it
Yep.
mean?
Yeah, there are many different pathways to using a restorative practice. I think one of the most obvious is as an informal resolution, to use OCR's language, right? Where they have made allowances for schools to use informal resolutions to resolve complaints of sexual misconduct. Now, there's language, right, in the regulations about what kind of cases, what needs to happen. There has to be a formal complaint. And so that is absolutely a way. And I think restorative justice or restorative practices are a really nice way for schools to approach informal resolutions. There's a theoretical framework there, there's some practices, there's some guidelines, and there's some guidance just on the overall approach that I think are helpful to schools. Um, and I've absolutely seen restorative practices used um, outside of a formal complaint. Sometimes it can be after a case has gone through an adjudication on campus. There's a finding or no finding, and there might want to be some sort of additional resolution, a conversation about sharing space, addressing how we move on from here, right? Restorative practices, regardless of the finding, could be used. Um, we often talk about restorative practices also as a way of building community, right? Circle processes, it's a way of engaging a group of people in dialogue, in conversation, that again focuses on relationships and relationship building. And so we can often use circles in prevention, in community building, whereas tend to use dialogues, shuttle processes, or circles or conferences, which is a particular kind of restorative practice, in response to harm. There's infrastructure behind all of that. It doesn't sound as confusing. It's not actually as confusing as it might sound because there are guides and there's script and there's an approach to all of this.
Yes, and I've trained with you to learn those approaches, and I am so grateful to have that understanding, really, for me in how to do the work. And even if I'm not fully utilizing the approach, just having kind of the tools in my toolkit to be able to work through whatever situation I might be in with students or employees or whomever it is that we're working with. But Kaaren, tell me this: if someone wanted to utilize your services or train with you, like, what does that look like, and how would they be able to contact you?
Yep. I do a lot of work through the University of San Diego's Center for Restorative Justice. So we often offer, right now I'm facilitating a year-long training program. We often offer 3-day training programs. So certainly folks can reach me at the University of San Diego Center for Restorative Justice. I'm also doing a lot of work with Clancy Street. It's a small firm that does a lot of restorative practices, mediation, and training. And so folks can reach me there or on LinkedIn. And I can give you that link to include in the notes if you would like.
Yes, we will absolutely do that. That would be so helpful. I think for me, getting trained is the first step. So for those who are practitioners in this work, having just a baseline training. And I actually attended the one through the University of San Diego. Is that right?
Yep.
I believe it was. Yep.
You did, yeah.
And it was phenomenal. And so I would highly recommend for those watching to just check that out, but also to consult with Kaaren in if you're trying to implement this on your campus, whether you might need someone to help create or finish or utilize that informal process. I think that'd be so helpful for you to just work with Kaaren or use Kaaren or someone that she might recommend to put this into practice. But thank you. And I can't wait to continue to partner with you in lots of ways in the future from ICS. And
thanks so much, Betsy.
Yes, and to make sure that our community has access to you. So Kaaren and I are going to keep in touch about different ways that we can promote her work as well as utilize that work for our ICS community. And thank you. And we're so grateful to have you here today, Kaaren.
Thanks so much, Betsy. Great to be with you.
Yes. All right. Okay, y'all. So I'm going to wrap us up in this Living Title IX session today by reminding you of the 3 things that we talk about each week to make sure that you are laughing at yourself, because we all need a good laugh every day or more. And then make sure that you are supporting each other. Give someone a high five today in our honor. And then finally, celebrate the small victories. For me this week, I always love to share one. The small victory is that I have figured out some technological issues that were happening with my computer. And that is always a struggle for me. And I think that I have it figured out today. And so hooray, that is good news. But all right, y'all have the best week ever, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.